Hooked on Fishing with Wes and Dave Peterson is sponsored by Hardee's.
Welcome to Hooked on Fishing. I'm Michelle, and we do thank Jason and his staff at the Hardee's stores in Hibbing and International Falls for sponsoring the show, featuring made-from-scratch biscuits and hand-breaded chicken tenders, and of course, charbroiled Angus burgers. Hardee's is happy to sponsor Hooked on Fishing. Welcome to Hooked on Fishing. I'm Michelle. It is January 13th. We're recording at the beginning of the week so that the guys can get out and do some fishing. But good morning to Wes and Dave.
Good morning.
How you doing, Michelle?
I'm good. Good to
This is a good morning to be talking about fishing instead of
being out there at 16
gathering
below and wind chill.
But it is making good ice.
True.
Yeah. Well, it's been a terrific month for making ice. So
Speaking of making ice, and I never even talked to Wes about this, but three of us were sitting in houses the other day, separate houses but right next to each other, and all of a sudden we heard this shift, and it shifted the whole. It felt like your equilibrium was off. It was. I zipped down the tent and I go, that was spooky. It moved. It just moved. And of course, everybody's laughing because there's 21 inches of ice where we're fishing. But it's just when the whole thing shifts like that, it just kind of
It's a little eerie,
freaks
right?
you out.
Do a double take.
we were on Lake of the Woods last week one day, and I never did see it, but something drove by us within, it wasn't that close, but quarter of a mile, third of a mile. But it must have been like a 3/4 1-ton truck with a big permanent wheel house. But when that thing went by, it sounded like a thunderstorm. I didn't feel the ice move, but it was loud and it cracked for quite a ways. I would say we had 20 inches of ice.
Was that on Lake of the Woods?
Yeah.
Does that make the fish scatter or affect them?
It doesn't
for a little
help
while?
it.
It spooks the fish some, but I'm sure it's short-lived too, you know.
But I do have a very interesting story about something that might spook the fish. I haven't done it enough, so I'm not going to say that that's the problem. But so Thursday I was out, and it had been pretty good there. We'd been seeing quite a few fish, and I was seeing less. I would say I was seeing 1/3 to 1/2 the fish that I saw on 2 days prior. But, there was enough fish to keep coming through to keep us interested, and I could see them on my live scope. But most of them didn't bite, wouldn't even look at it. Just swim underneath the bait, never stop, never pause, anything. And I'm thinking, okay, they are really not hungry today. And once in a while you'd have one come up, but nothing ever touched the bite. Well, I shouldn't say. We caught 2 fish they were probably 10 inches in the first 2.5 hours.
Which is horrible.
And I had tried everything. Finally, I thought, well, the only thing I haven't tried yet, and I just read about this, somebody just threw the question out, how much does electronics, and particularly forward-facing sonar, affect fish? Do they sense that? Do they feel it? Do they hear it? And I was like, I'm going to turn the Panoptix off or the live scope off and just see what happens. Within 2 minutes, or less, I had a 12-inch perch. Within a couple minutes after that, I had a 14-inch sauger. A few minutes after that, I had a 16-inch walleye. And in 2.5 hours, we had our limit. To me, that was more than coincidence. Those fish just didn't start at 11 o'clock, start getting hungry.
Well, did you turn it off again and then see if it changed again?
I never turned it back on. Actually, my partner said, well, after about an hour, he said, maybe you should try turning that back on again. I said, no, after we have our limit.
Exactly.
I did turn it on for maybe 20 minutes or so, but I hadn't seen a lot coming through before that, so I don't know what if that had an effect. But I
It's
just
a theory anyway.
I know I'm going to definitely be experimenting more. So when I turned it off, I was using my Vexilar at that point, which is less power, but it doesn't do as much either. I see the fish that are directly underneath me, maybe within a 4-foot cone,
Okay.
which in the Panoptics I see about a 32-foot cone. Actually, I see side to side, but if I can turn it around and then I can scan, about 16, 17 feet in every direction. Or you can set it to look out 100 feet too if you want in one direction. But
So adding to that story, that same day that Wes went through that, I was fishing with 2 other guys, all in separate houses, and we'd caught like 13 crappies. One guy caught, I don't know, maybe 8, and the other guy had like 5. I didn't have a fish. I didn't catch one, and I was using Panoptics. So that day, I didn't have my other graph along, so I couldn't change. But I got home that night, and I'm thinking about that. Tomorrow I'm gonna bring my Humminbird 55, similar to Wes's Vexilar. Before we had the Panoptics, that's what we used all the time. So that's what I did. I brought that the next day, and ironically, Wes we just talked about, hey, this is what happened to me. And I was thinking about that during the day, if that was making an effect on why I wasn't catching fish. So the next day I brought just my Humminbird 55. I did not bring the Panoptics. And I did catch 5 real nice crappies. 4 of them were really nice. And the next day I caught 5 again. And so it's not fabulous fishing out there. The fish.
Is that Lake of the Woods as well?
No, I'm fishing Rainy.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's not tremendous fishing, but the fish I'm getting are really nice. I mean, you get 4 big crappies, you have more than enough for a meal for the 2 of you. So, but anyway, I found that interesting that I went through the same experience. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop using Panoptics, though, because
I will. I mean, I will take both of them from now on. There's most of the time this year I've just been taking the Panoptics, and because I can see both of my lines, and sometimes if I'm fishing with somebody, I can see all 4 lines at once. But I will always have the Vexilar and the Panoptics from now on.
So you said a lot of times you've been using, well, they call this the dirty bomb, and what it does is lights up. And anyway, I had that hooked up, and I just had the actual light hooked up to my line, and then I had another drop line, and I used a treble hook. And the only thing that I put on that treble hook was just a live minnow, and I just let it swim down there. The last time I was out, that's the only thing I caught my fish on. I could not get them on. I had gotten them on a white tungsten jig the day before. I like using tungsten because I'm in deep water, and it drops faster. But yeah, that seemed to be very effective, and I know that works good over in Lake of the Woods too.
Very good. Yeah, I don't even fish without it anymore.
Yeah. So
and there's days, Tuesday, the guy I was with and we both had those on, and I think we maybe caught 3 fish on other things besides. Otherwise, we caught 30 to 35 fish on that and 3 fish on everything else. So, yeah, they really work.
I think one thing is both Rainy and Lake of the Woods are pretty cloudy lakes. They're they're not crystal clear, and I think when you get in them deeper water, especially fishing crappies, they can see that a lot better down there. And
you need something to get their attention.
Right. The old dirty bombs that we used to use had a constant light on them. These have a blinking light, so they flash like every couple seconds. Yeah. So it's
There's
a constant.
motion there.
Yeah.
Oh.
But
okay.
Probably have some interesting reports next week.
We'll look forward to hearing your story.
Yeah.
And and whatever experimenting you do with your Panoptics.
Yeah.
Whoa. All right. Well, thank you guys. Be safe.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
you.
Michelle.
Hooked on Fishing can be heard on the radio every week on The Bridge, on Psalm FM, and on KCC TV in International Falls. You can also listen on demand from our website, psalmfm.org. Hooked on Fishing is sponsored by Hardee's in International Falls and Hibbing.